Thanks for watching this webinar from Rapid5D. A quick note, during the questions I was asked about resource loading a traditional bill of quants, and I've added a walkthrough for that at the end of the webinar now, so around the 32-minute mark. If you want to zip to that, there's a resource loaded traditional bill of quants. Otherwise, enjoy the webinar.
For those of you who've seen the summary of what we're going to go through today, it's estimating with Vico. For those of you who already estimate with Vico, hopefully you'll see a few little tricks or even just have a reference video for you to look back at. So when you're trying to go through an estimate and you maybe haven't done it in a few months, you'll get the prompts to understand what it is you're doing and how to go about it. For those of you who've never done any estimating in Vico, hopefully we're going to demonstrate enough of the workflow, give you a little bit of a taste of how we go about doing things. So to start with, as always, a little something about Rapid5D. We are a group of experienced BIM and VDC, Virtual Design Construction consultants, and using the latest technologies from Trimble, we look to maximize BIM working, and we have a lot of experience in integrating BIM workflows with existing company workflows and how to just uplift a company in general to reach that BIM level 2 standard. And as a part of that, we offer advice and guidance and to help you keep you on the right track. So today we're going to look at, to start with, 2D and 3D quantity takeoff. This is going to be a very brief summary, so for those of you who are interested in learning more about this, I'd suggest going back and looking at one of the past seminars where I focus on it in a bit more detail. Then I'm going to take an existing traditional bill of quants and bring that into Vico from Excel. Then we're going to look at a little bit of cost planning, so using an NRM1 structure this time to develop a cost plan, bring in some resources from a library, which could be either a Rapid5D standard library or your own company library, which we can help you import into Vico. Then a bit of package management, and then finally I'll show you the real strength of Vico, which is its reporting engine, which allows you to take all the data that we've produced in the next 15 minutes and output it into a meaningful way. And then we'll go on to some questions. So once again, we're using Vico Office for this webinar. So that's going to be 3D visualization. We've got some clash detection in there, 3D and 2D takeoff, 4D scheduling, and 5D estimating. So we're only taking a very small sample of what is the entire workflow of Vico Office for today, but it should give you an idea. So if I move on to Vico quickly. So as before, we're going to start in document control, and this time I've got some drawings in this project. I've got some models down here as well, so I've actually got a structural and an architectural model in there. This should be familiar to any of you who use Vico on a regular basis. And then I'm going to jump straight into the takeoff now to show you what's been produced from this. So what you see on the left is a list of takeoff items which have either been generated directly from the model automatically or they've been taken off from 2D. So at the point we're going to jump off at today, it doesn't matter whether we took them from 2D or 3D. So if I just click through this list, I can see the various different elements from the 3D, and if I expand out this pile cap, I can see the various quantities that Vico's taken off. So it's got my top surface area, it's got my vertical surface area. Again, all of this stuff can be generated from 2D as well. Now I'm just going to open up a traditional bill that I've got. So on the left here you'll see what should hopefully be familiar, the sort of traditional bill we get day to day and always get asked, how do we get these into BIM? So I'm going to show you today. Here is the Rapid5D coding structure that we've applied to this. We have various automated processes to do this. So that was the Excel file. Now I'm going to go to the import from Excel function within Vico. Go tell it that I want to import it into the cost planner view first, and then go fetch the Excel file that I've just opened there. A little tip, the file has to be closed before you open it in Vico. And then it's just a case of telling Vico what each column means in the cost planner mode. So each one of these columns is the relevant code level, which was generated by our code generation tool. If I just click through these, missed that one. And then I just import those one by one. It's always important to do the codes first. For those of you who do a lot of importing from Excel, go through the codes first and then go back and then say, okay, well, this was my description column, this was my source quantity column, and this was my unit of measure column. And then I import those as well. And then we do a validation just to check all that data makes sense, and a compare and update, which will bring this data into my current cost plan in this project. So now if I flick through to my estimate, I could just delete that header item that automatically comes in. And now I've got that structure from that Excel document I showed you, and I can just expand down the relevant lines. And I've brought it all in. So the next thing we're going to do is take these quantities that came in from the Excel file, and I'm going to replace them with quantities from the model. So before I do that, I want to take a snapshot of what the cost plan looks like now. So this is almost like a save as in Vico terms, so that I can come back and report against this later. So I'll just save this as imported BoQ. And now, if I go to my takeoff and estimate screen, I can expand open. If we just work with a substructure for now, I'll go down to the concrete. So in there, I've got 52 meter cube of concrete now, and if I just drag the volume of these pile caps across, then I can replace that with the 46, which matches the 46 from the takeoff. Now if that takeoff changes for whatever reason, my cost plan and my BoQ will automatically update with the latest quantities. So I don't really have to do anything with regards to taking off in the future. So now I'll drag the top surface area, making sure to hold down Shift so I get that refresh icon so that it replaces the existing quantity rather than adding them together. So now we've got our original bill of quants that we brought in. We saved a snapshot of it, and now we've got an updated bill of quants. So the next thing I'm going to show you is a report that we can run which compares those two and isolates the differences between them. So this is really powerful when you have a large scale change, or you're bringing a traditional bill of quants up to date with a BIM model. You can really see where the discrepancies were and where the differences were. So this is the variance report, and on the left I choose that original snapshot that I selected, and then on the right I choose my current version. We're only going to use the quantity side of this report, but it also has a cost impact. So if we had costs assigned to this bill of quants, we could have seen the impact, the cost impact of any of these changes. But as it stands, if we scroll down this list, we should be able to see, there we are, there's that reinforcement in that concrete showing an increase from 52 meter cube sorry, a decrease from 52 meter cubed to 46 meter cubed, which is a total minus 6 meter cubed discrepancy. So then we can export that as an Excel file or as a PDF and publish that, so we can start to use this data in other reports, in dashboards, in all sorts of things. So if you think if that was a 1,000-line bill, how quickly we could isolate the impact of anything, then really it's a really powerful tool for that sort of stuff. And worth noting that we're just using the Vico Office standard templates for this, but these templates are completely customizable and we can sort of twist this data to get whatever output you need. So now I'm going to look at cost planning. So to do that, I'm just going to delete out this traditional bill of quants. Anything we're about to do now can be done with the cost planning NRM1 structure or with this bill of quants, but just to show you the cost planning, we're going to do it with that side of things instead, but I could have kept the original bill of quants and continued on that way. So to start with, I'm just going to do a manual. I'm just going to show you how to do a manual cost plan here. So I'm just going to type in the codes. I'm going to type in some descriptions. And again, using the NRM1 build-up. With standard foundations there. So this is all just the standard NRM1 template. I'm putting in. And this is the most labor-intensive way of developing a cost plan. Vico is a very open-ended tool, so we can pretty much do anything to speed up this process, but it's all about putting those workflows in place within your business and to drive the efficiencies forward. So that's one way of developing my cost plan. I'll show you very quickly a shortcut for those of you who use Vico regularly, a nice little trick that we've learned. We can go into Excel. This is a template of the cost plan that I know I want to import in, and I can just copy and paste the relevant data from Excel. So just drag down there, copy that with a Control-C, go back to Vico, and paste new rows. That brings that code data in. Then I can bring the description data in. So it's really about finding these little shortcuts that save you a lot of time, and Vico is very accommodating to these sorts of things. So other things I could have done is I could have brought in a reference cost plan. So I could have already had the NRM1 template pre-built, and even with common items that I build every project, so all my slabs could already be preloaded in there. But for now, I'll just drag all this into the relevant place, and now I've got a partial cost plan, so just for the substructure, or a small element of the substructure. So now I'm going to go over to my takeoff again. I'm just going to map a couple of those quantities across, so just find them in there. And then drag and drop the relevant quantities again. So I'll take that length for those continuous footings, making sure again to hold down Shift to replace whatever's in there. And then take the volume for the pile caps. So now I've got a quantity in my cost plan, but I still don't have a price. So I'm going to use a reference library to generate my pricing on here and do it at a resource level. So I'm going to expand out my cost plan again. I'm going to go to the relevant NRM1 section, NRM2 section in my reference library. And if I scan through here, I can find the relevant method that I need to associate to that. So for these pile caps, I'm going to grab some excavation and drop that in. I also need some waterproofing, some concrete, which already has all this labour underneath it, same with all the things I'm dragging over now. And some formwork. Drop that on as well. And then finally some reinforcement. And drop that in. So now I have a resource loaded cost plan. So the next thing I'm going to do, same thing I did before, drag and drop the quantities from the takeoff into the relevant areas. So here I've actually already preloaded this with some methods as well. So I'm going through and I've got my reinforcement with my resources below it, and I'm just loading in the waterproof membrane, which is going to be the bottom surface area and the edge surface area. And then for the excavation I'll take the gross volume. So that's now a completed resource loaded cost plan with the quantities and everything involved. You will see now that my pile caps are 46 meter cube but don't have a cost associated with them. I have to activate my assembly now, which involves activating, deactivating and then reactivating, and that will draw the cost from the bottom all the way up to the top. So here are 46 meter cube now cost £911 each because the total cost from below was 41,000. So it's worked backwards to get a unit cost. And then just for good measure, I'm going to take a snapshot of this cost plan as well. We're not actually going to use it today, but it's just good practice to keep taking snapshots of cost plans. Then what we're going to do is create a work package. So I've priced it up myself, but perhaps I want to go out to market and get a market rate for this package. So I'm going to create a pile cap package. And drop the pile cap from my cost plan into the pile cap package. And you can see all the elements of that cost plan item are now inside this work package, and everything in the cost plan can only be in one work package. So it gives a bit of traceability on where everything goes. So if I then open the bid manager here, you can see that the 41,000, which was my original estimate from my cost plan, and I can come in here and suggest that perhaps my first bidder is bid on a lump sum basis. So we'll just put in a bidder name there. Put in a lump sum, so 45,000 in this case, and I can see that that's 3,000 more than my cost plan dictates, and then distribute that across all the items within my cost plan. So it's used my build-up logic to distribute the lump sum. Then if I go create a new bidder, so this one's going to be called Substruct, and this bidder has bid on a method-based unit cost. So they're going to come in and so 2,300 for the reinforcement. And the excavation. They have failed to bid a price for the waterproof membrane, so what I'm going to do is plug my cost plan rate in so that I have a full price, and I can plug that from my own cost plan or from one of the other bids. So now they're sitting at £9 more expensive, that was lucky, £9 more expensive than Pile Capco. So I'm going to tentatively award the bid to Pile Capco because they are cheaper, and I've used my best value analysis to determine that. And again, we can run all sorts of reports to show the value add of using one company over another. And so I mark them as bid. And then if I go back to my estimate, go down to specialist foundations, there's that pile caps, and it was £45,000, which is now my work package price. So my original 41,000 is still sitting under there, but for anyone looking at this project, they will see the actual subcontracted price. And then I'll just show you a few reports that we can run. So first of all, an NRM2 bill of quants. So this is more like a traditional bill of quants from that cost plan output. And again, this could have been from the traditional bill of quants cost plan or this new cost plan I've got. And you can see for the relevant item, the associated methods and the quantities. I could also have my rates and my totals in here as well. Next thing I'm going to do is a resource list. So because I had a resource loaded estimate, I can generate a resource list here so I can see all the labor, all the material and all the plant that's going along with that. And then I can also group by work package. So if I had 100 work packages on this project, I could create an individual bill of quants for each work package. So here, this is that pile caps work package that I let at £45,000. At the minute, it's got no markup. I hadn't associated a target cost, so that's not there. But I have the build up, and I could print that as a PDF and go away with that. So that was hopefully the full workflow process there. So we've gone from 2D and 3D quantity takeoff. We've done importing traditional bills of quantities. We've done some cost planning. We've got a resource-based estimate in there, and we will look in more detail. I'll do another little video that gets attached onto this. It was just because we were tight for time where I show you that separately. Package management, so how we manage the packages, and then the power of that external and internal potential for reporting, so how we can use all the data that we've generated on a project and push it out into a way that suits our reporting functions externally and internally. So if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the GoToWebinar box on the side there, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so someone has asked, what style of bill of quantities can we import, and then in brackets SMM7, etc. So that traditional bill that I started with, that can really be in any format that you like. If you're exporting it from an existing piece of software, then we'd recommend you try and pull as much information out of that software as you can, because some other bill of quantity generation systems tend to just give you minimal quantity, which doesn't give you hierarchical levels or things like that. So the more information we start with, the easier we can import that into Vico. And then from there we can pretty much have any structure you like. It's just a case of getting it in. Will you be distributing PowerPoints or videos to us via email? Yes, I will send out the video after we're done. It normally takes probably around midday by the time it goes out. So, and we'll add in that extra bit about the resources. And all of the webinars are also available on our website, along with some other videos that we create when we find cool little workflows and really powerful functions inside Vico that we want to share with everyone. So keep tuned to our website. I'll also send out that link to everyone. Can I use Vico with other classification systems, SMM7, RMM? Yes. So from either the import function or just generally you can have your reference projects set up in any format you like. RMM obviously being quite close to NRM. We tend to say you use NRM as a basis because that makes long-term BIM benchmarking and reuse of data as simple as possible, because if I've constructed a slab and all my method is under that slab, next time I produce a slab I know exactly which method I need to use. Whereas the problem with, say, an SMM7 style bill is that to produce that slab, those methods could be, you know, the concrete could be on page 2, the formwork could be on page 5, so gathering all that data up and reusing it can become tricky, so we tend to recommend NRM1. Are there any help functions online, a manual or help toolbar? Yes, so in the top right corner of Vico Office there's a little help icon. For those of you who've been using Vico Office for a long time, it's worth clicking that and going through it again because it's been updated in recent years, so it's a lot better than it was before, so that can help you. That is a help file to help you with the software, where obviously where Rapid 5D comes in, we help manage a construction project. So sometimes it's about understanding what you need to be searching for in that help. So that's why we produce some videos online to help out and try and produce as much webinars and documentation as we can to help ease the gap between how the software runs and how we should be running a project. How can I use Work Package Manager if the subcontractor has no Vico? Yep, that's very good. Because of all the exports that we can do on the report writer, we can send out custom bill of quants. We can use Trimble Connect, which is an online common data environment, to upload our model and upload the relevant bill of quantities, and then we can capture the subcontract returns and then import them back into Vico. So we try and manage the process up and then back down the supply chain. Is there a quicker way to import bill of quantities? There can be. I mean, to be honest, once you've set that template up, it really is a case of you could potentially do it in 4 clicks of a button. If you're getting the same bill of quantity templates in every time it's in the same format. So it's really just a case of narrowing down the variables really in that process. So if you can guarantee the same bill comes in and you can guarantee it's going into a blank project, then we could do that whole process in a couple of minutes. But it's when we have, you know, slightly differently formatted bill of quants every time, the data is perhaps split between lines or split between rows, and then we try and bring that in. We have to create a custom import routine that time. So if you've got the same bill of quants coming in every time and they're always going into a blank project, 1 minute tops you could do it in. So it's really quick. Can you demonstrate how to price a typical bill of quants item utilizing resource-based pricing techniques? I can. We can do that. What I'll do is I will append a follow-up video to this one at the end. So for those of you who want to see that happening with the traditional bill of quants, if you re-watch the video after it gets sent out, at the end I'll append a 3-minute or so video showing the resource-based pricing associated with the traditional bill of quants as well. Okay, so that brings us just about to past. If anyone has any last-minute questions, please feel free to ask. Again, I'll get the videos up. We'll tag that bit on the end about the resource pricing and traditional bill of quants. I'll probably split that off as a separate video as well, so those of you don't have to watch the whole thing again. And if you have any more questions, feel free to email us at info@rapid5d.com. And then we have another webinar next week where we're going to look at managing change on a project and a few of the tricks that we've learned to gather the best evidence that you can for managing that change. So thank you again very much for your time. I apologize again if anyone turned up yesterday morning. Won't happen again. And keep tuned to the video, keep tuned to the website, and we'll try and keep the information flow as consistent as possible going forward. Thank you very much, and have a good bank holiday weekend. During the questions round of the webinar, someone asked how we can map resources to a traditional bill of quants. So I'm going to go back to that bill of quants that I imported earlier on in the webinar, and I'm going to show you how to apply resources to it. Something to note here is that none of these quantities have been mapped from the 3D model in this point. This is all just from that Excel file, just to show that you don't necessarily need a model or to have done your takeoff in Vico to join at this stage and then move forward with your project from here. I'm going to load up my project references. This is an NRM2 cost database. You can use any database you want. You could have your own costing library, your own methods. Vico is really flexible in how you can manage those libraries, so whatever suits you. But for this instance, I'm going to use my NRM2 library, and I'm going to come down to my excavation, and I'm going to find the excavation in this cost plan. And let's say I'll go to these trenches, so I will come down to my excavation, and I might take this excavation build-up and drop it into the relevant place. Just select. Inside here, we now have a labour plant material build-up, and I can drag the same build-up, and the reason I'm having to overwrite is because the codes already exist in the cost plan on the right, so I just select overwrite again, and now I have that same build-up inside. But I could say that perhaps it takes a little while longer to do the 2 meter depth than it does for the 1 meter, so I can change that to 0.18 on the consumption. So that's going to take a little while longer, but it's still the same resource. So if I were to change the cost of that resource, so at the minute it's £21, if I change that to £22, it's reflected everywhere where that same code is used in the cost plan. And likewise, I can come down to in situ concrete. I can go to my, if I do my foundations, then drop over to O1. Again, take that same build up and drop it into my foundations. And it's automatically picked up the parent quantity here, multiplied it by the consumption and whatever wastage there may be to get an output. So again, same as before, you'll notice that the price isn't building up at the minute. All we have to do is go to the top level, deactivate the subtree, and then reactivate the subtree. And now that cost is building up. So I can see now that I've got a resource-based estimate, my total for this concrete is 13,416. Since there is 52 meter cubed, then it's automatically worked out that it's £258 per meter cubed. So I hope that explains a little bit more how we do resource-based costing. Again, a very flexible tool, so it's really about how you want to structure your resource library on the left there to how you can best automate the process of bringing it over onto the right. If anyone has any more questions on this process, please feel free to contact us at info@rapid5d, or alternatively our telephone numbers on the website. Again, thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you.